Hello there and welcome to another BoBeats synthesizer review, and today we are checking out the new Lifeforms SV-2 from Pittsburgh Modular. If the Lifeforms SV-2 reminds you of the Taiga, that is not a coincidence. It shares the same physical body and some of the functionality is similar, but the actual synth is very different. The Taiga was a West Coast inspired synthesizer with wave folding and dynamics modules. And while I personally enjoyed the Taiga, I think that the Lifeforms SV-2 will appeal to more people. And a big thank you to Pittsburgh Modular who sent this unit over so I could make a review for you all. So with that being said, in today's video I'm gonna walk you through what you can do with it and also try and give you a smorgasbord of different sounds, showing you what it's capable of. The SV-2 has two fairly complex oscillators, two LFOs, two filters, and you can have the filters to run parallel or in series or use them for stereo filtering, which is kind of cool, and I'll have some demos later in the video about that. You have two ADSR envelopes. There is a dedicated preamp, I think just like on the Taiga, and the filters are really good. They're state variable multi-mode filters. They sound really nice. And something I didn't like on the Taiga was the delay unit. I didn't like the sound of it. I thought it was kind of nice for kind of experimental sounds, but not really for standard synth sounds. And on this unit, I'm happy to tell you that they don't have a delay. Instead, they have an actual spring reverb, which sounds really good actually. And while the synth has these two dedicated oscillators, you also have a -1 octave sub as well as a -2 octave sub, and you can use both at the same time. And because the LFOs can go into audio rate, you can use them as two additional oscillators, turning this into a 4 oscillator synth. And just like on the Taiga, we have this 24 HP Eurorack expansion bay, so you can remove this cover and insert Eurorack modules in order to expand the functionality of this synthesizer. There's also a noise generator, it's analog and it produces white noise. And while this synthesizer is semi-modular and you have a lot of patch points to work with, it actually sounds very good even without any patching. But you will definitely get the most out of this synth if you start patching it. And here I just want to quote a dear friend of mine, my friend Noir, who made a comparison between the original SV-1 module and the Mother 32 from Moog. And in that video he says that the SV-1 is very flexible, whereas the Mother 32, it's more about simplicity. And I think this applies here too. The Pittsburgh Modular Lifeforms SV-2 is very, very flexible, but it doesn't have the simplicity of, say, a Moog subsequent 37 or even a grandmother or matriarch. It's not a difficult to use synthesizer in any way, but it rewards exploration and it rewards the user that starts patching things and exploring sound. And it's definitely a synth for producers and musicians that want to sound design. So let me walk you through this synthesizer and also give you some patch examples along the way. I guess we'll start over in the oscillator section. We have frequency control here. There is also an auto-tuning functionality that very quickly lets you tune the oscillators. And using this button, we can switch between different waveforms. And this oscillator type is the blade wave, which can go from a sawtooth to a square wave. And then we have the pulse wave with control over pulse width. And for the pulse wave, we also have control over the pulse symmetry, which introduces more steps into the waveform. And since the SV-2 is all about flexibility, here's an example of a patch I made. So here I'm routing an LFO into a VCA that is being controlled by an envelope, giving us more control over the vibrato. For the two oscillators, we have three controls here. So we have pulse symmetry control, and then we have the FM amount, and this can also be THRU-ZERO FM. And then we have the blade or pulse width control over here, which is normal to LFO number 1, but you can patch it on the patch bay as well, having something else control it. And here's a patch example where I'm using THRU-ZERO FM, and I'm using oscillator number 2 here as the modulator, and it's running into VCA number 1, which is controlled here by this envelope here. And the difference it makes to the sound isn't overbearing, it's more on the subtle side. So let me just deplug it here. So we have a sine wave here on oscillator number 1, and now let me plug it back in. Let's tweak the envelope, adding more attack, some more decay, some more release, and we've also turned down the frequency of the LFO a bit, and we've turned up the sub here. So this gives us a very smooth sound. So THRU-ZERO FM is one ingredient that you can add in to change up the sound. And another thing you can do is just changing the character of either of the filters. This one is really nice. And over on the mixer, we have 4 channels, and the second one is normal to the sub. So this is part of oscillator 1, and using the patch bay, you can also patch in the second sub, which is 2 octaves below. And together, you can create some really big sounds. In this patch example, I'm modulating both the pulse width and the pulse symmetry using the 2 LFOs. Then we have the -1 octave sub on channel 2. As well as the -2 octave sub patched on channel 4. And lastly, we can bring in the second oscillator. To make this sound even more aggressive, we can patch the output of the mix into the preamp, giving us additional gain. And let's pitch up the second oscillator and add some FM to it. The second oscillator is identical to the first one, and you have it here over on channel 3. And then we have noise here on channel 4. And over on the mixer, we have this mix saturation button. You can hear. It lets us saturate channels 1 and 2, and 3 and 4. If you want to saturate the sound even more, you can send it through the preamp and drive the signal even harder. And then we come to the filter section, which is definitely my favorite part of the synth, because you can do a lot with it, not just in terms of sound design, but also in terms of patching. So we have the filter over here on the patch bay, and you can see here we have the input here and the output, as well as CV controls here. And those CV controls are over here. They're normal to the LFO and the ADSR for each of the filters, so you can very quickly use ADSR number 1 here to control the filter. And by default, I do believe they're in series, so filter 1 goes into filter 2, but you can break this, and this is also part of what makes it so good, because you can break it and you can have them run parallel to each other, you can have them run in series, or individually into the left and right outputs for stereo filtering. And here's a little demo of that. So in this example, I'm using the 2 filters in stereo, sending one left and one right. And it sounds alright, but let's make it even beefier. So I think this sounds pretty cool, but I want to show you one more example with stereo filtering. I'm taking the mix output, that is the 2 oscillators and the sub oscillator, and then I'm feeding it into the mixer splitter. So basically the signal goes in here and you get 2 identical outputs here, and then you feed them into the 2 filters and then into the left and right outputs here. And while experimenting with this patch, I realized that I could take the mix output and then go into the reverb, and then out of the reverb into the mixer splitter, letting me use the reverb, but it's before the filters. And I wonder what would happen if I take the signal out of the reverb and then first into the preamp and then out of the preamp and then go into the mixer splitter. Let's get back to the details of the filter. It's a very smooth sounding filter with resonance. And there's multiple different filter responses. Low pass, we have combinations of low pass and band pass. We have band pass, we have high pass and band pass, pure high pass. So we can have, for example, a high pass filter here going into a low pass filter. I mean, immediately it sounds good. And then we have the character buttons here, which changes the sound of the filter quite radically. And I think it's 3 settings, and it basically goes from regular filter to more and more, I guess, aggressive sounding. And if we set it to the normal mode, add in some spring reverb, and then you can hear how the presence really changes, and I really like that. And this can of course be used in so many different ways. And for those who just want to hear the filter in action, I've decoupled the second filter here, so you're just listening to the first one, a saw wave, just one oscillator here, and very smooth. And then when you change the character of the filter, it's almost like wave folding. And you can also use the shift function here to turn on drive. And the best part is you don't have to use it if you don't want to. It depends on the sound you want to create. And this is why this synth is so flexible. There's so many different points where you can change up the harmonics and the timbre of the sound, and I really like that. So like the kids say, let me cook and use the drive here, and let me try something. I want a pretty sharp attack. And suddenly we get something very plucky. And I really like how you can use the tonal tilt of the spring reverb to change the mood of the sound. Not a very interesting patch, but flexibility is the name of the game here. And you can take the reverb out here and you can go into the preamp, which is normaled to the mix. And then you can use the preamp here to create a distorted version of the reverb here. And with a bit of patching magic, we created this kind of stereo sound where the two filters are run left and right and modulated by two LFOs, and we still have the reverb in the mix. And by changing the character of the filters, we get something slightly different. A few things up. Yeah, let's go. An important note is that you can turn on the duophonic or polyphonic mode to get two voices out of it, and using different sort of patching you can get different amounts of articulation per voice, and it can sound pretty good. And there's also an arpeggiator and a multifunction module, which we also saw over on the Taiga. So what do I actually think about SV-2 and who is it for? And I think the best way to explain it is that this is just it's just a really good synth. It's not really groundbreaking, and where the Taiga was very interesting with its wave folding and dynamics module, this is more a standard synthesizer. But it does what it's supposed to do really well. And I think that there will be people who look at the subsequent 37 and say, I want something a bit more advanced. And they look at the grandmother and the matriarch and they say they sound nice, but they don't offer the flexibility that I'm looking for. And that's where the SV-2 comes in. The SV-2 is for people who want more flexibility in terms of sound design. The oscillator section is more advanced than on most semi-modular synths. The filter section offers a lot more flexibility than on most analog synthesizers out there. And together with the patching capabilities and the expansion, you have a lot to work with here in terms of sound design. But I will be honest and say that some people don't really want all of that flexibility, and they don't really need all of those capabilities, and it's not really practical for them to have all of these patch points, for example. Maybe they're playing live and they need presets, for example, and in that case something like the sub 37 might be a more interesting option if you want something this size. But I will say that I like this more than the matriarch and the grandmother because you can take this further in terms of sound design. So maybe it's for you, maybe not. Let me know down in the comments.